welcome to the Open Mic Diary. My name is Indra Adele, and you have just stepped into a safe space. Just like in a diary entry, in this space, I am free to be my most authentic self, be vulnerable and honest about my feelings and emotions, and give you a front row seat to my various life experiences, my challenges, my victories, ups, downs, laughter, tears, and everything in between. I'm turning my healing journey into our healing journey. And honestly, this is not your traditional podcast. This space is free flowing, hence the name Open Mic Diary. So expect anything. If you have not already, please go listen to the Allow Me to Introduce Myself episode so you have more context to me and the style of this podcast. Episodes, for the most part, will be uploaded in batches, but outside of that, I may decide to spontaneously upload episodes individually. So please make sure that you follow, subscribe, and have your notifications on so that you will always know when I post a new episode. I pray that my authenticity and my vulnerability in this episode blesses you in some way. Okay, so we got one more day left in the month of May. I'm actually recording this on May 30th. And so, I wanted to post a podcast episode that touched on mental health before Mental Health Awareness Month was over. I know I've already shared quite a few through poetry and some of the podcast episodes, but wanted to get another one in there. I feel like it was very appropriate, especially given some of the challenges I've had just in the last week in my own mental health, and I wanted to talk about that. So this past week has been rough for me. It's one of the roughest weeks I've had in a while, to be completely honest. I definitely mentally crashed Monday, Tuesday, and initially it kind of felt like it happened very abruptly. Like I was very caught off guard by the severity of how I spiraled mentally, and I had a panic attack, but it was very mild, probably one of the most mild panic attacks I've had. It was very short, and I was able to get on the phone with a friend, and it did help it to subside much faster. I've noticed that if I'm able to get on the phone with somebody in the middle of having a panic attack, it makes a world of a difference in terms of how long it lasts, how long the peak lasts, and just my ability, or I should say my brain's ability to really like switch gears and just come out of that state of anxiety, panic, survival, all of that. That and cold therapy are probably the most helpful things for me, which I know I talked a little bit about in previous episodes. So this is, I don't know if I'll call it a part 2 to my last episode about just navigating anxiety, panic attacks, and all of that. But I wanted to more so talk about just the insight I've been able to gain over the past couple days as I've been trying to come out and recover from this mental crash. And when I say mental crash, what I mean is I didn't just have a panic attack. Like mentally, I fell into a hole. I had a pretty prolonged dissociative episode that lasted for almost like 2 days. I felt like I was floating outside my body. very detached from myself, serious brain fog, felt like I couldn't think clearly, felt like I couldn't really process what I was feeling, felt very numb, didn't really have the ability to sort through my emotions. Like, I know I'm not feeling right. I know I'm feeling overwhelmed, but I'm not able to like sort through it and process it, which is unusual for me. Like, I'm somebody who's typically pretty in touch with my emotions and can sort through them. But when I'm in this type of delicate state, it can become a challenge if I fall into like a dissociative state, which it's been a long time that I've had a dissociative experience that extensive. And so I wasn't necessarily caught off guard with the fact that I wasn't feeling the best. I was caught off guard with the severity of it. So to give some context, this started around Monday into Tuesday. Those were like the main days that this took place, the worst for me. On Saturday, I actually took a train ride. So I was hesitant as to whether or not I would even share this publicly, because it is still a little bit embarrassing for me, to be completely honest. But I am 34 years old and I'm a grown woman and I am afraid of trains. I'm afraid of riding the train. And I'm not afraid of looking at trains or being near a train necessarily if it's above ground, but I'm afraid of riding trains, especially if they're running underground. The only time that I will pull myself together to be okay with being on a train, which I don't know if this even counts. It's like those little trains that are like at the airport that take you from one part of the airport to the other. Sometimes it might go underground, but it's, it's kind of like a tram. It's not, it's a little bit different. But even that makes me uncomfortable, like the ones that are underground. And I'm super like, I'm trying to get on and off that thing as quickly as possible. Even if I'm traveling with my kids, like I'm not hanging out around the platform, like we are going. So this came up for me. It's probably been about 10 years, maybe even more than that now, to be honest. Yeah, it's been more than over 10 years ago, I had a traumatic train experience. And since that time, I have avoided riding trains. Like, I literally will find some other if I'm in an area or city or whatever, I will take a cab, a Uber, or something, but I'm not getting on a train. So, this was back when I was living in Philly. I was probably maybe 19 or 20 years old, somewhere around there. And the short version is that I was coming off of the train one day, and this person that was clearly not in their right mind, as I got off the train and as the train was pulling away, and this particular stop, it's like it's underground, you get off the train, and where I got off at, there was maybe a couple feet of the platform before there was like a big wall that had like advertisement or something. And then once you clear that wall, there's like an escalator or stairway going up. And the platform itself wasn't that big right there, right? So I get off. There's this person that's there. And they proceed to make a beeline for me and try to push me onto the train tracks. And this was after the train kind of cleared the tracks. So like, I kind of like stumbled, and it was very random, it was very like abrupt. I don't know who this person was, but they targeted me, and I was able to kind of catch my balance a bit, navigate around the person, and proceed to quickly walk away from them, which then turned into me running away from them, as it seemed like they were talking to someone and describing me. Now, they could have very well not been talking to anybody. They could have just been, a little cuckoo and talking to an invisible person. I don't know, but I wasn't about to find out. So they're like talking to somebody and describing what I'm wearing, what I look like, and telling them to come. And like, it was just very, I was scared, to be completely honest. And once that started, I proceeded to run. And so this particular stop, there was a little bit of a distance, not a long distance, to get to the stairs to actually exit the underground area where the train was, right? So I'm running. Eventually, run out to the top. This person starts to pick their pace up to come after me, right? And so I was so scared. I literally ran. I had gotten off at a stop that wasn't right near my apartment building. I think I had planned to go somewhere and then go home after. So I was, maybe 10, 12 blocks or something like that. Maybe about 10 blocks away from where I actually lived in Center City. And I completely skipped that errand and decided to I literally ran all the way. Like, I did not stop. It was really dramatic. Like, people were literally looking at me like, why is this person running so fast? Like, I probably looked like I was running for my life, to be completely honest. And, fortunately I'm pretty quick. And so I was like sprinting. And then once I got close to my building, there was like a Barnes and Nobles there. I ended up going inside there and kind of scanning my surroundings, because this Barnes and Nobles had multiple levels. And when you go up to the top, there's windows it was at the corner. And so you can kind of see quite a bit, right? And so I was just making sure. Now, it was not likely that this person kept up with me, right? But I was so paranoid that I was like, I just want to make sure that there's no one suspicious hanging around my building before I go inside. So I hung out there for maybe a couple hours before I even went into my building, because I wanted to make sure that nobody was following me. So after that, like, what seemed like a near-death experience, like, it literally felt like this person tried to kill me. I mean, why would you try to push me onto train tracks? That doesn't even make sense. And who knows what would have happened if I was a little bit closer and stumbled farther backwards, or if I didn't navigate around them. Like, who knows, right? So that situation made me terrified. I had like PTSD, like, I was not okay. It affected me. And so I didn't go back on the train. At the time. My younger brother actually was also living in Philly, and I would take the train to go over his side where he was at. And I stopped doing that. Like, I would either walk or I would get a ride, or this was before like Lyft and Uber and stuff. So it was like a cab or the bus. I didn't like taking the buses in Philly because those bus drivers be tripping. Those bus drivers in Philly be like NASCAR driving. Okay. Like, you might lose your life. So I didn't really like the buses in Philly. And so I would find alternate ways of transportation. I refused to go on the train. And so my paranoia got so crazy that I started to be super just like hyper vigilant, always looking over my shoulder. Cause you're in the city, you walk most places, right? I was always just looking behind me, looking around me, just always wondering if someone was watching me or something like that, right? Or if this person was gonna like, pop back up and like find me, right? Because they had this vibe that they were like trying to somehow bring other people to harm me, along with them. And so, it messed with me a lot. And I became terrified to even ride the bus back home, because when I would go back home to Virginia, I would take the bus back home, and I wouldn't even do that. I remember the person that I was dating at the time that was back in Virginia, literally the PTSD was so absurd that I would ask them to come. I don't know if I asked them or if they just did it. Knowing me, I probably didn't ask. I probably just said that I didn't want to ride the bus. And, I didn't have a car out there because it's the city. So when I went out there, I didn't take a car. They would drive from Virginia to Pennsylvania to Philly to pick me up to bring me back because I was that afraid to even just ride like public transportation for long periods of time. Now that didn't happen often. That happened maybe a couple times, but yeah, so that was very traumatic for me. It had very lasting effects. And it wasn't until my therapy session the other day that I actually realized that that wasn't the first traumatic train experience that I had. I actually had a few before that, and that was kind of the one that broke the camel's back. Prior to that, there was a time where, someone was sexually harassing me on the train and I abruptly got off. This was also in Philly. Then there was a situation where someone next to me had a firearm and it made me uncomfortable. And so I abruptly got off the train. Then there was a few situations where, back at this time I was in a pretty toxic relationship with someone, and they were very manipulative and verbally abusive, amongst other things. And one of the things they would do is they would humiliate me in public. I mean, they would talk to me like I was like they owned me, like I wasn't a human being. And sometimes what would happen is they would belittle me, call me names, talk down to me, with people around, and so it was very embarrassing for me. And people, and oftentimes there were several times where this happened on the train. And the thing about being on the train is you're like sort of in close proximity to people. Like if someone's talking near you, you're probably going to hear what they're saying. Right. And this person was not necessarily talking quietly. And the people around would just kind of, how when you can tell people are kind of trying to act like they don't hear, they're trying to pretend they're not aware of what's going on. Yeah, that's kind of what would happen. People would kind of turn sideways a little bit or start talking to the person next to them or just try to act like they didn't see what was happening, right? And so that, that was not positive. It was not a positive experience for me. And I have quite a few of those memories on the train, because back at that time, I would travel on the train to see them, and sometimes we would take the train to go to like Maryland or DC or whatever, right? So anyways, so by the time this other train situation happened, it just blew things out of the water for me. And, I just kind of made a decision, like, I'm not going to ride a train. It's just not going to happen. So, I say all that to say Saturday, okay, I decided to get on the train, and I should rephrase that because I really didn't decide. Part of what I'm working on in therapy and really addressing and tackling this train phobia that I have required me to ride the train so that I can actually process the feelings that are there, because I kind of just been avoiding it all this time. It's kind of one of those things where I'm just like, well, I'm content never ever riding a train again. And so it's just been this kind of underlying fear that I kind of put in a box somewhere. And so a week before that, I had ridden the train. A friend went with me, and it was really helpful. Definitely, it was challenging. It was hard. I had a lot of feelings, and I was able to talk through them in therapy. So this was like the second go. This go was hard. I was just like, the first time around, it was definitely triggering. I definitely had a lot of things come up for me, but this time it was like times 10. I was very overwhelmed. I felt like I was floating outside of my body. In my mind, I felt like I was okay. I was like, oh, okay, I'm fine. I'm okay, like all of that, right? But my body was like, we're not okay. Like I was anxious. I started sweating to the point where I had to take off like one of my layers. And so I started to feel like I was going to have an anxiety attack. And so I turned to my friend and was like, I want to get off. And so we get off. And yeah, it took me a while to just like come to. I was very disoriented, trying to kind of calm my body down. Long story short, it was a very overwhelming experience. It was very hard. And this time on the train, my therapist had told me not to talk on the train so that I can actually be with what I was feeling. I think that's what amplified it because the first time around, you know, I was engaging in conversation to try to like distract me from the fact that I was on the train. But this time around, I was not distracting myself. I had to be with what was actually there, and it was a lot. And then it was frustrating because I couldn't actually pinpoint what I was feeling. I didn't actually know what was wrong other than I was scared. And my body remembered. My body remembered the experience from over 10 years ago. My body remembered the fear, the panic, all of it. But my brain was not able to like really sort through that. And so I just felt numb, which was very frustrating for me. And so that kind of overflowed into the mental crash that I had Monday and Tuesday. Now, what played a role in that is that, generally speaking, lately I've been doing pretty good from a mental standpoint. There's been some life stuff, challenging things that have come up in the last couple months that have been hard, but I've been able to, you know, move through them okay and still be fine for the most part. My younger brother had a medical emergency about a month ago, and it was hard. It was really hard. But we got through it. He is doing better. But it was rough. It was rough for me emotionally, mentally, in the early stages of that whole situation. And then a couple weeks after that, actually no, the beginning of end of April, beginning of May, because a situation with my brother happened in April. I did this like 3-day intensive. It was like this breakthrough program, and a lot came up for me in that. Like the first day, I literally almost quit. Like I had made up my mind. I was like, I'm not finishing this out. I'm done. Like I'm not showing back up tomorrow or the next day. Like this is too much. But I was able to work with one of the coaches and kind of like sort through that and like talk to a couple close friends that kind of helped me to stick it out and work through the things, right? But it was a lot for me emotionally. Like I was deeply triggered for like a whole day and an emotional mess. And then it was literally in the heat of me grieving a friendship of a very close friend of mine. And that friendship had just ended. And so like I was deep in grief, highly triggered with the stuff that I was working through in this breakthrough program. And I was able to move through that, and the program went well. I had huge breakthroughs, super healing, super awesome. And then like a few weeks later, the train stuff, right? And so I kind of just realized like, okay, even though overall I've been doing good and I've been managing okay, from a nervous system standpoint, I think the train situation was just like, I think that the mental crash that I had earlier this week was not just from the train situation, but the accumulation of this thing happening over the last month and a half. And that's why my mental crash was so severe. Because initially I was just like, this shouldn't be this bad just from the train thing. I know that I haven't really unpacked what's there for me with this, but it just felt like so much. And so I just had that revelation really today. And so I've kind of just been, it's helped me to be a little bit more gentle and patient with myself because I was frustrated with me. I was frustrated with me and feeling like I should be able to move through this easier. And it's just like, look, when we have traumatic experiences, when our bodies and our brains are forced to have to survive and thrive in survival, right? Like, it can really take a physical toll on our bodies. And so, like, I just had to remember, like, Indra, it might seem silly on the surface. Like, oh, it's a train, whatever. People ride trains every day. But for you, it is not surfacey. For you, it's a big deal because a traumatic event happened to you. Someone literally tried to take your life amongst the other situations, right? And you literally have never fully dealt with what happened. And over a decade later, you're trying to tap into this situation so that you can heal from it. Why would it be a piece of cake? Like, why would it be super just like one and done, easy, did that, move on? And I think sometimes I can just be hard on myself and have these like unrealistic expectations of like what my healing process should look like. And I get so frustrated, and I had to just kind of take a step back and shower myself with love and grace and compassion for that version of me that had to endure and deal with that, and endure and deal with it mostly alone. Like, I didn't really talk to anybody about it aside from the person I was with at the time. And my brother knew. And I had friends back at the time that literally I don't know if I told them the full extent of it, but they knew that something had happened and I didn't want to go on the train. And so they would try to like set me up and coerce me to like go down on the subway. Like, there were a few times where they schemed to try to like set me up. And then all of a sudden I realized we're going down the subway, and I'm like, no. Like, so they try to like intervene and all of that. And it wasn't happening. And it just made me remember too, like, I'm more prone to having us just smaller threshold for these types of things because of my past. Like, unfortunately, I had a very traumatic childhood. And so for a large portion of my childhood, and even into my early adulthood, but a large portion of my childhood, I literally was in survival, fight or flight, some type of dissociative state, depression, right? Like, just, you think about that, and that's a lot for our bodies to endure because we weren't designed to thrive in that state. It became normal for me, but I have to remind myself that, like, it's not normal for you to be in a state of survival. And you've gotten so accustomed to navigating your life this way, that it's super familiar to your body. It's super familiar to your brain. And so it's easy for your brain to go there when it's overwhelmed or overloaded with stressful situations. Even if it's good stress, even if it's stress because you're trying to actually work through something and heal from something, right? Like, it's still easy for your brain to go there because it's familiar. And yeah, so this past week has been interesting, for sure. And I'm still recovering. Like, I'm not 100%. I'm definitely night and day better than I was earlier in the week, but yeah, I'm still trying to find my way, especially from the standpoint of like loving on myself and not being frustrated with where I'm at and how I'm feeling, and just this process of me sorting through everything that's there for me with this particular traumatic event around the trains. So if you see a train, if you're on a train and you think of me, just, throw up a prayer for me. You feel me? Because I'll probably be working through this for a few weeks, or longer, right? And I do think I'm gonna pause for a little bit though. I think my nervous system needs to like exhale, but I am gonna work through it. And I'm doing my best to not be afraid to really be with what's there for me and work through it so that I'm not living the rest of my life running away from this experience and not actually acknowledging internally what's there for me. Because if it's not acknowledged, then it still has power over me. If it's not dealt with, if I don't give those emotions a voice, if I don't tell that version of me that, hey, I see you, and to actually work through and process all that's there, it will still have power over me. And I'm really trying to release just anything that could just limit me or make me susceptible to a future breakdown because there's some undealt with thing there from the past. So if you're listening and you struggle with your mental health from time to time, yeah, man, we're in this together. And I pray that whatever you're working through right now, you get through it. And I pray that you have the support that you need. I pray that if you need to be in therapy, that you are in therapy. And if you're not, I pray that you seek out therapy of some kind, whether one-on-one, whether group. And if that's something that's not tangible right away, I pray you seek out some type of support, even if it's a trusted friend, a family member. You can DM me. Like, I'm open to making new friends in this circle and in this season. I think I mentioned in my last episode that, yeah, God's been making some changes in my circle. So you can DM me, even if it's just, hey, I listened to your episode. Please pray for me. I'm navigating some challenges in my mental health. I've had people DM me and say even just simple things like that. And I'm happy to support you. I'm happy to tell you that I see you. I'm happy to pray for you. And I'm happy to trade ideas and tools back and forth that have worked for me, and just encouragement, really. Sometimes just knowing that somebody's like in there with you or sees you, sometimes just that simple encouragement can just go a really, really long way. In my worst of worst times, the simplest of someone just noticing my existence, or to just encourage me or believe and have vision for me that I could get through that difficult season, was everything for me, like everything for me. So I don't, from personal experience, I don't underestimate just the power of like speaking life into somebody, or to just, even if it's virtually holding your hand to say, I'm with you. Like, I don't underestimate the power of that at all. And so please connect if you feel inclined to. And this is an ongoing conversation because it's a part of my life. So, yeah, there'll be a follow-up to this, and just more follow-ups just around the ins and outs of mental health, because I've barely scratched the surface so far with just for myself and my experiences. So, that's it for now.